Okay, so just a super brief presentation. I don't want to take much from Joy, but Joy is one of the most productive students I've ever had the pleasure to work with. It's hard to say too much. What she has done here is produce an app which you can download on your Android device right now. It's called Feathered Friends. So if you look that up, you can follow along with the presentation and actually do it. It's free. So install it now if you want to kind of follow the presentation. And what she has done here is produce this game entirely from scratch. That means 3D modeling, animation, programming, the whole nine. Almost nobody has the skills to do all these things by themselves and produce this level of quality. So I really can't, it's hard to overstate how good this is. Take it away, Joy.
Thank you all so much for coming today. As Dr. Thornton mentioned, I did develop Chicken Box entirely by myself, although the main theme was done by my sister Amanda, who's actually an art major here. The game is a virtual pet game designed mostly for younger children, and it centers around having a flock of birds that you have to care for, raise, and train. Let's take a look at it.
Other button.
Other way.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. One of the features that you can do is pet your chicken. You do this by tapping the screen and rubbing it. Petting your chicken will increase your bond with it, which in turn can raise the chicken from a chick to a hen. So that helps you actually age it. One thing that's really cute about it is that it will actually produce little hearts. It's supposed to be a video playing, but it's not quite doing that, which is fine. So you can pet it in your own games too if you're following along. Let's see.
It makes hearts when you pet it.
It does. There we go. Food is another interesting feature that I've added. There's several different types of food in Chicken Box that you can buy, and each of them also increase your bond. So they work very similar to petting, but have a different sort of interaction, I guess you could say. They play a little animation while you do it too. So that's really fun. You can buy food from the shop or unlock it in Minigames. Clothing is another interesting feature. There are, oh man, probably dozens of different clothing options you can unlock. Hats, necklaces, shoes, the whole 9 yards basically. You can unlock colors, so clothing can have over 41 different colors unique to each outfit you could have. It's very interesting. So clothes are probably one of the most collectible features in the game, definitely. There we go. Okay. The shop is one of the features that I'm probably most proud of. It's here that you can buy clothing and food for your chicken using money that you've earned by playing mini-games, which I'll get to in just a moment. I feel that the shop really brings everything together by allowing the player to be rewarded for actually bonding with their pet. Next we've got breeding. This is one of, I feel, the core features of Chicken Box. By breeding any 2 chickens together, you produce a child, which will have genetic sort of variety from each of their parents. Probably nothing quite as complicated as a mud puppy. There are actually a whole lot of different combinations you can have. I estimated over 1 million individual chickens that you could probably create if you include the clothing, color, and different physical features. We're actually not limited to chickens, which is why I changed the name of the game from Chicken Box to Feathered Friends. You can have cockatiels, ducks, cockatoos, and chickens. I even made a little Cocky the game cocky, which is very, very proud of that. So yeah, you have to be an adult chicken to breed. Here are some of the features that I've actually created for the game. This is one of the newer things that I've added. You can have different combs, which affects the top of their head. Some combs have wattles under the beak and some don't, which I think is a very interesting variation. And then there's beaks, which I think sort of determine the species. You know, so if you've got a duck beak, you're a duck. If you've got a chicken beak, you're a chicken. And then there's a lot of different types of tails. I don't even think I got all of them in the PowerPoint. And of course, those can be any color. Next, let's talk about adopting eggs. You only start the game with 2 chickens, so increasing genetic diversity is important for fun gameplay. You can adopt any color of egg, except ones you haven't unlocked yet. You can unlock new colors by playing mini-games, which is always fun. So the more you bond with the chicken, the more types of chickens you can have. When you buy a chicken from the shop, it'll be a random species. I call everything chicken, even though it's a bird. You can get either a chicken, a cockatiel, or a duck, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, Next, I'm going to talk about some of the mini-games available in Chicken Box, which is one of the other core features of the game. There is an infinite runner game, which is called Farm Flight, and is very similar to Flappy Bird. And there's a memory game, in which the player has to memorize a series of shapes, tones, and colors, and then play them back. You can play it on your phone if you're following along. There's also a race. You train your chickens in the mini-games and, for speed, and if you've trained them enough, they can win races. This is Farm Flight, the one I mentioned, which is very similar to Flappy Bird. This game has undergone so much change. I completely redid the models for the obstacles twice. The music has been changed probably 4 times. The core gameplay mechanic has changed. Originally, you know that game that plays on Google Chrome when you don't have any internet and it's a little dinosaur? Yeah, that one. It was a lot more similar to that game because you could only jump once, then you had to touch the ground and jump again. I changed the mechanics based on player input so that your chicken can flap around as much as you want, but there are more obstacles that will hurt you in the air. There's also more coins available. Here's Memory Dance, the one that I mentioned earlier, in which you can memorize colors and shapes. This also trains your speed and increases your bond with your chicken, as well as earns coins. So it's very similar in end result to the Infinite Runner game, but gives the player more variety if they want to hop between games, you know, if they get bored of it. So it has a lot of replay value because of this. Now let's talk about that sweet racing. Racing is really good because it really brings together the 2 mini games. You know, you've trained for this, you have worked really hard with your chickens and increased your bond with it. Now you can get something out of that. Through races, you can unlock more coins, more clothes, and more colors, which I think is very interesting for your chickens. There are 3 stages. So you've got a farm stage, a patchwork stage, and a volcano level for the end, which I thought was really cute. And I'll show you some pictures of those now. Here's a screenshot from each. And they all the stages and all the levels have very, very different variations, which again keeps things interesting, and different racers that you have to compete against. So it's very cool. They're the best way to earn money in the game, definitely. There we go. Okay, thank you for listening. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, man.
Was this done just for fun, or was this part of a course project?
Well, I took Game Design 1 and 2 with Dr. Thornton, and that inspired me to continue my studies and work in game design. It's something that I'm very passionate about because it combines my love of 3D modeling, programming, and human technology interface. So yeah, I worked on this on my own. Yes.
Are you going to continue like adding levels and stuff? Because if I download this and I beat it, I need more.
You
just
do.
say, like,
I absolutely
my chickens need me. I can already tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They do. They love you so much. That's how you win the games, by loving your chickens. That's what I do.
I already love them.
I do plan on adding more games, and in fact, I also plan on adding more competitions. One thing I'd really like to add is a beauty competition where you can enter your chicken, and the cuter clothes and colors it has, the more likely it is to win. In addition to your bond with it, you gotta have confidence to win those kind of things. Absolutely. So that is definitely coming up, absolutely. And if you have any input for the game, you can leave a review on the App Store with it.
So speaking of the App Store, what's involved in going from where you design it to getting it on the App Store?
Oh, buddy, you don't even know. First of all, you gotta pay a $25 entrance fee, right, to get it, like to actually upload anything to the store. Then you have to create a key store for your game, which is this long password that you got to keep up with. You have to enter that every time you build your game. Okay, it's just a whole lot of stuff. It took me a week to actually, from finishing the game to getting it onto Google Play. So there's quite a bit of effort involved there. Research on actually how to do it. It's a whole different process from actually building the game, definitely. I almost gave up, actually.
Glad you didn't.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you think was the hardest mechanic to build?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I started out, the only thing you could do was breed chickens and move them between boxes, and I decided that we needed a little bit more than that. The hardest mechanic was definitely saving colors and adding like clothes again that you could save, and to where your chicken would actually be the same chicken in one scene as it would be in the mini game scene. That's a lot harder than you would think to actually spawn them all in the different places, because you've got to have the clothing go to the right spot. It's got to be the right color. It's got to be the color you set it to. And if you add new colors later on in future updates, you've got to have it to where it will still work, you know. So that was definitely probably the hardest thing, was saving the features of the chickens.
I just want to say I'm sorry that your videos didn't work.
It's okay, it looks so pretty. Everything in this was supposed to be totally animated. I actually this could be like a professional YouTube video. And I was so upset, it's so pretty. Oh, it was gonna be gorgeous. But if you guys want to see more chicken box footage, you can all download the game and leave a 5-star review on Google Play. Okay, thank you so much.
Anything else for Joy? Okay, thank you. Very good.